fire example. Alright, to get started, we'll have a new composition here, 1920 by 1080, and we'll right click over here on the gray matter and go New, Solid. And again, color doesn't matter here, I'm just going to hit OK. Alright, over here in the effects presets, type in PART for particles. CC Particle World, drag that over. And the first thing we got to do is get rid of the grid. Then we'll drag our particle down. Or emitter, I should say. Sorry. Should use the correct terminology here. Now, let's just make it so the particles are giving birth a little bit. Then we're going to go down to physics and choose fire. Okay. Now, here's where things get, what mine looks like and yours looks like can look a little different. So keep in mind, that was the initial step, but I want students to experiment to find the best fire. Okay, so alright, just letting you know. Now, under here, I have particle and I have bubble. Again, there's a lot of different ones here. Okay, bubble. Now I need lots more bubbles. So up here, when we deal with lots more of anything, we're talking birth rate. Okay, that seems to be pretty good. Now, if you wanted it to fade off at the top, you can start playing around with this. So we got birth size, death size. So let's say it tapers off at the top. We have size variation. Again, there is so many things that you could change here. Like, let's give, for example, if you wanted a gas flame, you could change the colors. So I'm just going to go with this right now. And then what I find is it's easier to digest this if I close this out right here to collapse it. Because now we're going to deal with blurring it. Okay, two types of blur that I like. Vector. And the amount, again, open to interpretation. I drop this down and play with the slider a little bit until I get something that looks a little like this. Okay, next, I would collapse this so you can digest it and go to fast. So there's a fast blur. Blurring is so fun, and it's one of those things that it's an art form in itself. Okay, so we're just going to blur this up a little bit. Just like that. Now, I want to sharpen it back. Give it that look. So, now that we blurred it, we're going to sharpen it. Again, all these numbers are pretty arbitrary, students. I hate it when students go in here and type in, oh, it has to be 14. What was that number? Remember, this is all kind of arbitrary numbers, and I want you to play around with the effectiveness of them. So that's why I'm not really giving you the numbers, just showing you which ones to change. Sharpen. I'm just sharpening that a little bit. Now your whole mode and method and operation here is to get rid of the bubble look. Okay, but first, let's just kind of preview that a little bit. So I hit spacebar. Okay, what's it missing? Well, fire glows. So let's add some glow. The glow threshold needs to go down quite a bit. And you can see this yellow creep down. As soon as it creeps down all the way, you know you have it. Now that you have the recipe for fire, so particle world, vector blur, fast blur, sharpen, glow, you can now go in and play around with the settings of them. So what I would do is get a lot of flames out there and first address vector blur now. Now that you can change it, you can see that you get different types of fire. Okay, too much, maybe just enough. Then you can go down to fast blur, play around with that one. Again, I like using the sliders for this. Okay, and then sharpen. And then the glow, again, it has that creep in there, so we're going to address the threshold. Now, it's all animatable too. So when you think about this, the glow factor is animatable, back and forth, forth and back. Everything's animatable. To kind of help it along, I also like playing around with noise. So if you want to play around with noise too, that's a good thing. Go in here. How we play around with noise is just add a new solid on top of it. Okay. Then you can go to Effect, Noise, Fractal Noise. Noise is very powerful. It can become anything that you want it to become. In this case, I want it to become something a little longer, and so to do that, let's go to uniform scale. I'll show you. It's easier to share with that. So if I scale it this way, it becomes longer. And if I scale it this way, it becomes longer. Okay. And if you look at the evolution of things, see how it starts moving around? Again, that's animatable. Okay. The noise is too sharp, so again, I'm going to go to a blur. How will I ever remember all this? That's what you're saying to yourself. Don't worry, you do not have to memorize it all. The important thing is to know what stuff does, not memorize it. Like, I just know that things blur and things get sharpened, just like real life. So as long as you can get the simple concept of blur and sharpen, you can turn anything into anything. So here's fast blur in this. So what's this do? Well, if you drop this down to something like classic color dodge, ooh, not that one. Ugh. Let's go down here, try a different one. There we go. So what was the other one? Oh yeah, this was the darken color burn. You want color dodge. Now you can see that it adds a little bit more oomph to your fire. So here's what it's off. On, off, on. Okay. So to adjust all that stuff, well, you can go in here and you can play around with the contrast and brightness. Let's say I wanted to ramp contrast down, take brightness down. You can see that I can adjust all this stuff too, and all this is animatable. When you get done, you have this fire, and it's made of two things here. Okay. So if you want the fire to exist in a scene, you don't want to drag both of these in there. You want to take this stuff and probably make it into some kind of pre-comp. Let's go to Window Project. Okay. So here's my composition. This is what you could add to a scene. So if I had a new scene or a new composition here, and I wanted the fire added to it, I could just click and drag the fire down. Now the complexities of the fire stays within the composition itself. That's a nice thing, because you don't want people messing around with the fire. The fire is good. You can move the fire around. You can play around. You put it over here, here. You can change its direction. All kinds of crazy stuff. But the whole thing is, it lives on its own little layers of compositionness. And if you ever want to go back to it, you could just double click this one, and then you can go in and edit this stuff. By clicking on here, you can go to Effect Controls. There's all your settings. Here, Effect Controls. Anytime you want to go back to your project, you go back to your project. That dancing around is the hardest part in After Effects. So, that's fire. Enjoy.